Get that filthy old man out of here before he scares away the real customers. The sharp voice cut through the crowded luxury mall, and every head turned toward Henry Carter, a quiet, elderly black man wearing a faded brown coat and worn shoes. He had only stepped inside to escape the freezing rain, but one wealthy shopper stared at him as if he did not belong. When Henry accidentally brushed against her designer bag, she gasped dramatically and demanded security. A few people laughed. Others raised their phones to record. Henry tried to explain, but the guard had already taken him by the arm and was leading him toward the exit. That was when Maya Brooks dropped her mop and stepped forward. At 24, Maya knew what it felt like to be judged by clothes, shoes, and empty pockets. Her cleaning uniform was faded, her sneakers were cracked, and the last $20 in her purse had to buy medicine for her little sister, Lily. Still, she placed herself between Henry and the guard. "He did nothing wrong," she said. The mall suddenly grew quieter. Olivia Grant, Maya's manager, hurried over in a tailored suit, her expression cold. "Maya, move aside and get back to work." Maya looked at Henry. His hands were trembling, not with anger, but embarrassment. She saw the way he lowered his eyes while strangers smiled at his humiliation. "He needs a chair, not an audience," Maya replied. Olivia's face tightened. "This is your final warning." Maya felt her stomach drop. She needed this job. Rent was overdue. Lily's prescription was waiting at the pharmacy. Losing one paycheck could cost them their apartment. But when the guard pulled Henry another step toward the doors, Maya reached for her employee badge. Her fingers shook as she removed it. "Then I don't want a job that pays me to watch an old man be humiliated." Silence fell across the marble lobby. Even the phone stopped moving. Olivia stared at her in disbelief before snatching the badge from Maya's hand. "You're fired." Maya swallowed the fear rising in her throat, then turned to Henry and gently asked whether he could breathe comfortably. He admitted that his chest felt tight, so she guided him toward a bench and offered him water from her own bottle. No one laughed now. No one apologized either. Outside, rain hammered the glass entrance as Maya helped Henry stand. She had just lost her job, and she still had no idea how she would pay for Lily's medicine. What she did not know was that every second had been captured by the security cameras above them. She also did not know that Henry Carter's son owned the entire mall, controlled one of America's most powerful companies, and was about to see exactly how his father had been treated. The moment they stepped outside, the cold rain soaked through Maya's thin uniform. Henry tried to assure her that he could manage alone, but his breathing was still uneven, and Maya refused to leave him standing beneath the awning. She searched the street until she spotted a yellow taxi waiting at the curb. The driver asked for $12 to reach the nearest urgent care clinic. Maya opened her purse and stared at the single $20 bill inside. It was all she had left. Lily needed that money for her prescription before the pharmacy closed. For one painful second, Maya imagined her little sister waiting at home, trying to hide another fever. Then Henry coughed and pressed one hand against his chest. Maya closed her purse around the bill. "Please take us to the clinic," she said. During the ride, Henry watched her carefully. He had spent decades meeting executives, investors, and people who measured kindness by what it could earn them. Maya had just lost her job for him, yet she had not once asked his name. At the clinic, the nurse said Henry only needed rest and medication, but the prescription cost $8. Maya used the remainder of her money without hesitation. Henry looked at the small paper bag in her hand, then at her empty purse. "Why would you do this for someone you do not know?" he asked. Maya gave him a tired smile. "Because being poor does not make someone less human, and being ignored can hurt more than having nothing." Henry reached into his coat, but Maya immediately shook her head. I did not help you for money. At least tell me where I can find you, he said. Maya hesitated, then wrote only her first name on the back of the clinic receipt. Before he could ask anything else, her phone rang. It was her neighbor. Lily had collapsed in their apartment. Maya's face lost all color. She rushed outside, but the taxi was gone, and she had no money left. She ran 3 blocks through the rain before a city bus stopped near the corner. By the time she reached the emergency room, Lily was awake but weak, wrapped in a hospital blanket. The doctor explained that her medication could not be delayed again. Maya held her sister's hand and promised everything would be all right, even though she had no job, no savings, and rent due in 2 days. Across the city, Henry stepped from a private car and entered a gated mansion glowing with warm light. Inside, Daniel Carter was ending a billion-dollar conference call when he saw his father's wet coat and tired face. Daniel stood immediately. "What happened to you?" Henry placed the clinic receipt on the desk. On the back, one name was written in blue ink. Maya. "Find this girl," Henry said quietly. "She gave up everything she had for me." Daniel picked up the receipt and studied the single name written on the back. Maya. Nothing else. No phone number. No address. No last name. Henry lowered himself into a chair while Daniel called Marcus Hill, his most trusted assistant. Within minutes, Marcus had requested security footage from the mall, clinic records, and transportation logs from the surrounding blocks. Daniel expected the search to take hours. It took less than 20 minutes. The mall footage appeared on the wall screen in Daniel's private office. He watched Maya step between Henry and the security guard. He watched Olivia Grant fire her. He watched Maya offer water, guide Henry outside, and disappear into the rain beside him. Daniel's expression hardened. Carter Global owned that mall. Every employee there represented his name, and they had treated his father like he was invisible. "Suspend the manager and the security team immediately," Daniel said. Henry shook his head. "Punishment is easy. Understanding is harder." Daniel turned toward him. Henry pointed at the screen. "Look at the girl." Marcus advanced to the footage. Another camera showed Maya opening her purse beside the taxi. Daniel noticed the hesitation in her face before she handed over her last bill. A later clip from the clinic showed her refusing Henry's attempt to repay her. Daniel leaned closer. Something about the way Maya tilted her head felt strangely familiar. Marcus opened a second window containing an old newspaper photograph from 8 years earlier. Daniel froze. The image showed a younger version of himself standing beside a damaged car on a rural highway. He had been 25 and trapped inside after an accident during a storm. Before emergency crews arrived, a teenage girl had stayed beside him, kept him calm, and used her jacket to shield him from the rain. She disappeared before reporters arrived. Daniel had never learned her full name. The photograph was grainy, but the eyes were the same. "That is her," he whispered. Henry stared at the screen. "You know Maya." Daniel explained the accident, his voice unsteady. For years, he had searched for the girl who had helped him, but every lead had vanished. Now she had saved his father without knowing who either of them was. Marcus returned with new information. Maya Brooks, 24, recently dismissed from the mall, lived in a small apartment on the south side with her 10-year-old sister. The sister had been admitted to St. Catherine Medical Center less than an hour earlier. Daniel was already reaching for his coat. Henry stopped him with one warning. "Do not walk into her life as a billionaire offering money. She has already shown you what dignity means." Daniel nodded, then removed his expensive watch and handed Marcus his car keys. He would go without the driver, without security, and without the name that opened every door. At the hospital, Maya sat beside Lily's bed, trying to hide her fear, as a billing officer explained that treatment could not continue without payment. Maya promised she would find the money by morning. She did not see Daniel standing outside the half-open door, listening to every word. And Daniel did not yet know that helping her, without revealing the truth, would become the first lie capable of destroying everything between them. The billing officer left Maya with a payment form she could not complete. She stared at the blank spaces while Lily slept beside her, then quietly wiped the tears from her face before her sister could wake. Daniel waited several seconds before stepping into the room. Without his tailored suit, expensive watch, or security team, he looked like an ordinary man in a dark sweater and simple coat. "Are you Maya Brooks?" he asked. She immediately stood between him and Lily. "Who wants to know?" Daniel introduced himself as David Carter and said he worked with a community assistance program connected to the hospital. The lie felt heavier the moment it left his mouth. Maya studied him with suspicion. "I did not apply for charity." Daniel glanced toward Lily. "The hospital contacted several programs after reviewing her case." Maya folded her arms. "Then the hospital should have spoken to me first." Daniel had expected gratitude. Instead, he found pride, caution, and a fierce need to protect the small amount of control she still had. He respected her more for it. "This is not pity," he said carefully. "It is emergency support. You can repay the fund later through community service, if that makes you more comfortable." Maya looked at Lily, whose breathing had finally become calm. Her resistance softened, but it did not disappear. "Only the emergency treatment," she said. "Nothing beyond that." Daniel agreed. He stepped into the hallway and called Marcus, instructing him to create legitimate paperwork through the Carter Foundation so Maya would never discover that he personally covered the cost. When he returned, Lily was awake. The little girl smiled weakly and asked whether he was Maya's friend. Maya answered too quickly. "He's a stranger." Daniel almost smiled. "A very temporary stranger." Lily laughed softly, and for the first time that night, Maya's face relaxed. Daniel noticed how exhaustion lived beneath her strength. He also noticed that she never complained about losing her job. When he asked what she planned to do next, Maya said she would start applying before sunrise. "I can work," she told him. "I do not need anyone to rescue me." Those words stayed with Daniel. Before leaving, he gave her a card bearing only the name David and a number connected to a private line. Maya placed it on the table without promising to call. Outside the hospital, Henry was waiting in Marcus's car. Daniel admitted that he had hidden his identity and paid Lily's bill. Henry's expression became serious. A secret may protect her dignity tonight, but it can break her trust tomorrow. Daniel looked back at the glowing hospital window. He knew his father was right, yet he was not ready to reveal that the stranger Maya barely trusted was the billionaire whose company had fired her. Across the parking lot, a black luxury sedan idled beneath a street lamp. Inside, Vanessa Reed watched Daniel leave the hospital and quietly photographed him. She had followed him expecting a business secret. Instead, she had found a poor young woman, a sick child, and the first real threat to the future Vanessa believed already belonged to her. By sunrise, Maya was already dressed for an interview she did not know existed. Lily had been discharged with instructions to rest, and Maya had spent most of the night searching job listings on an old phone with a cracked screen. Just as she was preparing to leave for a diner that needed a morning server, the card Daniel had given her slipped from the kitchen table. She stared at the name David Carter and almost ignored it. Then her phone rang. Daniel told her that a position had opened in the community outreach division of a large company downtown. He insisted that he had only forwarded her name and that she would still need to earn the job. Maya agreed to attend, but only after making him promise that no special treatment was involved. 2 hours later, she entered the glass headquarters of Carter Global, wearing a second-hand navy dress and carrying a folder with copies of her limited work history. The marble lobby reminded her of the mall, and for a moment, humiliation tightened her chest. She forced herself forward. Upstairs, Marcus quietly removed Daniel's name from the interview schedule and arranged for an independent panel. Daniel watched from behind a conference room window as Maya answered every question with honesty. She had no college degree, no corporate experience, and no influential references. What she did have was practical intelligence. When the panel asked how she would improve support for struggling families, Maya described transportation vouchers, flexible clinic hours, and emergency rent assistance. She spoke from experience, not theory. By noon, the panel offered her a 3-month probationary position. Maya accepted with trembling hands. For the first time in months, hope felt real. Daniel met her later at a small coffee shop across the street, still pretending to be David. Maya told him she had earned the job herself. He agreed, although pride filled his voice. Over the next several weeks, they spent more time together. Daniel listened as Maya described Lily's dreams of becoming a teacher. Maya learned that he had lost his mother years earlier, and that his relationship with his father had grown distant before Henry's health scare. She began trusting him, but one fear never left her. "Rich people sometimes help poor people so they can feel important," she said one evening. "I never want to become somebody's charity project." Daniel nearly told her the truth. The words reached his lips, but his phone rang before he could speak. It was Marcus warning him that Vanessa had requested access to the upcoming Carter Global Gala. Daniel looked across the table at Maya and promised himself he would confess before anyone else could expose him. He did not know Vanessa had already contacted Olivia Grant, and together they were preparing a video that would turn Maya's new hope into public humiliation. The Carter Global Gala filled the ballroom with crystal lights, polished silver, and guests whose names appeared in business magazines. Maya had almost refused to attend, but her supervisor insisted that every member of the community outreach team be present. She wore a simple black dress borrowed from a coworker and stood near the back, trying not to feel out of place. Daniel had planned to find her before the program began and tell her everything. He had rehearsed the truth all afternoon: his name, his position, the hospital bill, the accident from years ago. But before he could reach her, Vanessa stepped onto the stage and asked for the microphone. Her smile was calm, but her eyes were fixed on Maya. "Before we celebrate generosity," Vanessa said, "perhaps we should examine the kind of people this company is rewarding." The large screen behind her came alive. A video showed Maya meeting Daniel at the hospital, sitting with him at the coffee shop, and entering Carter Global on the morning of her interview. The clips had been rearranged to make it appear that Maya had planned every encounter. Whispers moved through the ballroom. Then Vanessa displayed Daniel's photograph beside the words, "Billionaire Chief Executive Officer." Maya stopped breathing. She looked toward Daniel, waiting for him to deny it. He could not. "David Carter does not exist," Vanessa announced. "The man she has been meeting is Daniel Carter, the owner of this company." Maya's face went still. Daniel moved toward her. "Maya, let me explain." She stepped back. "Was the hospital payment yours?" Daniel hesitated, and that hesitation answered her. "Was the interview arranged by you?" "I only opened the door. You earned the position." Tears filled her eyes, but her voice remained steady. "You watched me tell you that I never wanted to become someone's charity project." Daniel lowered his voice. "I was trying to protect your dignity." "No. You were controlling what I was allowed to know." The room had grown silent. Every guest was watching them now. Maya removed her employee badge and placed it on a nearby table. Daniel reached for it, but she pulled her hand away. "You saw my poverty before you saw me." She turned and walked out of the ballroom while cameras followed her. Daniel started after her, but Marcus stopped him with urgent news. The finance department had discovered missing money in the community outreach fund. Every falsified approval carried Maya's employee identification number. By the time she reached the sidewalk, 2 investigators were waiting beside a city vehicle. Maya listened as they told her she was being questioned about the disappearance of $200,000. Behind the ballroom windows, Vanessa watched with a satisfied smile. Daniel had finally revealed the truth, but someone else had already prepared a lie powerful enough to destroy Maya before he could save her. Maya spent the night in a quiet interview room, answering the same questions again and again. She explained that she had never approved any transfer, never accessed the financial system from outside the office, and never seen the account that received the missing money. The investigators remained professional, but every document carried her employee identification number. Every digital signature looked real. By morning, she was released while the investigation continued, yet the damage had already spread. News sites displayed her photograph beneath cruel headlines. Commenters called her a thief, a liar, and a woman who had targeted a billionaire for money. When Maya returned home, Lily was sitting on the couch with tears in her eyes. Children from school had sent messages asking whether her sister was going to jail. Maya turned off the phone and held Lily close, promising that the truth would come out. She wished she believed it. At Carter Global, the board demanded an emergency meeting. Several directors warned Daniel that the company could lose donors, contracts, and public trust unless he immediately blamed Maya and ended all contact with her. Daniel refused. Vanessa entered the room carrying a folder of prepared statements. She offered a solution. If Daniel announced their engagement and allowed her family to support the company, the scandal would disappear. She also claimed that her connections could persuade the investigators to close Maya's case quietly. Daniel understood the trap. He calmly agreed to consider her proposal, knowing that Vanessa would become careless if she believed she had won. Marcus began reviewing security logs while Daniel pretended to cooperate. Across town, Maya received an unexpected visitor. Henry stood outside her apartment, holding no gifts, no check, and no expensive promises. He apologized for Daniel's deception, then told her about the highway accident 8 years earlier. Maya remembered the frightened young man trapped in the storm. She had never known his name. Henry explained that Daniel had searched for her for years. He was wrong to hide the truth, Henry said, but his feelings were not created by your poverty. Before leaving, he handed Maya a small recorder. It contained Vanessa speaking with Olivia about the false transfers and the edited gala video. Maya listened in stunned silence. The recording could clear her name. It could also expose confidential company information, destroy investor confidence, and threaten thousands of jobs. That evening, Daniel called Maya, but she did not answer. She sat beside Lily, holding the recorder and facing an impossible choice. She could save herself by releasing it, or protect innocent employees by remaining silent. Then her phone displayed a breaking news alert. Daniel Carter had publicly announced that he was considering marriage to Vanessa Reed. Maya stared at the announcement until the words blurred on her screen. Daniel and Vanessa. The story spread within minutes, and strangers celebrated the match as if Maya had never existed. Lily asked whether Daniel had chosen the woman who accused her sister. Maya forced a calm expression. Sometimes, people make choices for reasons we cannot see. Yet the recorder in her hand suddenly felt heavier. One upload could clear her name, expose Vanessa, and destroy Daniel's carefully protected plan. Maya opened her laptop and prepared to send the recording to every news station in the city. Then she remembered the cafeteria workers, drivers, cleaners, and outreach employees at Carter Global. Thousands of families depended on the company. If confidential information caused investors to leave, innocent people could lose everything. Maya closed the laptop. She would not save herself by harming people who had done nothing wrong. The next morning, she gave the recorder to Marcus under one condition. Find another way to prove it. Do not release anything that could destroy the company. Marcus looked at her in disbelief. They are calling you a criminal. Maya nodded. That does not give me permission to make innocent people pay. When Daniel learned what she had done, the truth struck him harder than any accusation. Even after he had deceived her, even after the world had humiliated her, Maya was still protecting strangers. He realized that silence was no longer protection. It was cowardice. Marcus traced the false transfers to a private device registered to Olivia. Security footage showed her entering the finance office after midnight, while electronic records proved Vanessa had approved payments to the account that received the missing funds. Daniel called an emergency shareholder meeting and ordered it broadcast publicly. Vanessa arrived wearing an elegant white suit, certain that Daniel was about to announce their engagement. Instead, Daniel stood before the board and placed his chief executive officer badge on the table. Maya Brooks is innocent, he said. Every screen displayed the evidence. Olivia's access logs appeared first. Vanessa's payments followed. Gasps moved through the room. Vanessa stood and accused Daniel of protecting Maya because of personal feelings. Daniel did not deny it. I am protecting her because the truth demands it. He admitted that he had hidden his identity, paid Lily's hospital bill, and allowed Maya to believe he was someone else. Then he accepted full responsibility for the scandal. The board warned him that defending Maya could cost him control of Carter Global. Daniel removed his badge and stepped away from the podium. Then take the company. I will not keep an empire built on an innocent woman's humiliation. Across town, Maya watched the broadcast with Lily and Henry. Her name had finally been cleared, but Daniel had surrendered the life he spent years building. As reporters surrounded him outside the meeting, he gave only one answer. She protected my father when she believed he had nothing. Today, I am choosing to become the kind of man worthy of her kindness. In the days that followed, the truth spread faster than the lie ever had. Investigators cleared Maya of every accusation, while Vanessa and Olivia faced charges for fraud, conspiracy, and falsifying company records. News outlets that had mocked Maya now praised her restraint, especially after Marcus revealed that she had refused to release the recording because she feared innocent employees would lose their jobs. Carter Global shareholders soon discovered that Daniel's decision had protected the company from a much larger scandal. They asked him to return as chief executive officer, but Daniel gave them one condition. The company would establish a permanent fund for low-income workers, elderly citizens, and families facing medical emergencies. Maya would lead it, not as a symbol, but as its executive director. Maya accepted the position only after confirming that she would have full authority over its programs and budget. She did not accept Daniel so quickly. Trust had been damaged, and Daniel understood that money could not repair it. For months, he showed up without cameras, gifts, or promises. He helped Henry rebuild their relationship. He drove Lily to medical appointments when Maya was working late. He listened when Maya was angry, and he never asked her to forget what he had done. Slowly, the distance between them softened. Lily recovered enough to return to school, and Henry became the grandfather figure she had always wanted. Maya's new fund paid overdue rent for struggling families, provided transportation to hospitals, and trained mall employees to treat every person with dignity. Nearly a year after the rainy afternoon that changed everything, Maya returned to the same mall for the opening of the fund's first public resource center. The lobby was filled with workers, families, and elderly guests. Above the entrance, a sign displayed her name. Daniel stood beside Henry and Lily, wearing a simple dark suit. There was no stage, no press announcement, and no crowd of wealthy strangers. Daniel walked toward Maya and spoke quietly. You helped my father when you believed he had nothing. You protected my company when you had every reason to let it fall. I cannot promise that I will never make another mistake, but I can promise that I will never hide the truth from you again." He opened a small ring box and asked her to build a life with him, not because he had rescued her, but because she had taught him who he needed to become. Maya looked at Henry, then Lily, and finally Daniel. Tears filled her eyes as she said yes. Applause rose through the lobby. Across the room, the spot where Henry had once been mocked now held a welcome desk for anyone needing help. Maya had entered that mall. As a cleaner, people barely noticed. She returned as a leader no one could ignore, proving that dignity was never determined by wealth, and kindness could change more than one life.